Welcome to the latest Porsche 911 GT3. 2024 marks 25 years of the famous GT3 badge, and as such, Porsche has a couple of surprises up its sleeve for the latest facelift. There's not any extra power, that's not really the GT3 way, but from launch, you can now get the GT3 as a regular version and the Touring. What's more, for the first time, the Weissach pack is available on the GT3, as is a rear seat option for the GT3 Touring. Pricing in the UK will be from just under £160,000. So believe it or not, this was one of the most requested options on the GT3, was to have these rear seats. It's the first time it's ever had rear seats, and yeah, I mean, this seat here is in the driving position of someone very, very small, so I can just about fit back here. But then I reckon if you just want to put kids here, it should be absolutely fine. And the fact that you can even think about getting 4 people in a 911 GT3 in itself is pretty incredible. So yeah, fair play to them for actually doing it. As well as more seats, there's a few styling tweaks, but nothing radical because this is a 911 after all. You'll spot a sharper design at the front and rear with a recontoured front diffuser and new angled side plates on the wing, as well as a refreshed matrix LED headlight design. Meanwhile, the GT3 Touring also offers a lightweight package with the roof, coupling rods and shear panel on the rear axle, all made of CFRP carbon fibre reinforced plastic. Alternatively, the Weissach pack on the regular GT3 gets CFRP anti-roll bars, coupling rod, shear panel, side plates of the rear wing, exterior mirror top shell, mirror triangle and air blades in the front area. Inside, there's also CFRP door handles, plus there's additional leather and Racetex upholstery, and the option of, you've guessed it, a CFRP roll cage and magnesium lightweight forged wheels. I reckon the biggest story though with the GT3's cabin is the lightweight sports bucket seats, which obviously need to fold forwards in order for you to get in the back. And also, as an option, you can get the CFRP backing. But yeah, it's the fact that you can fold them forwards, which doesn't sound like much, but for a bucket seat, that's a big step forwards because they've always been completely fixed, but this is different. You can just get the normal seats, which are 18-way adjustable, but these are fantastic, and there's not really an excuse not to get them anymore because you've got electric height adjustment and there's manual reach adjustment. There's also a thorax airbag integrated into the seat, and there's optional seat heating as well. So it's got pretty much every feature that a seat should have, but it's a bucket seat and it holds you in far better than the regular ones. Oh, actually, the headrest, I nearly forgot about that. It's removable, or at least the padding is, so you can take that out when you're on track, and it means that if you're wearing a helmet, you don't feel like you're hunched forwards because there's not enough room behind you. It's a very clever idea. I'm also thrilled to see the GT3 retain the key-like starter rather than going to a button like the new hybrid GTS. It is far more tactile and enjoyable to use. There's also been changes to the digital dash so that there's no longer an analog rev counter in the middle, and also there's new track graphics to display key info such as optimal shift times. And actually, final thing, the tachometer can be rotated so that the 9,000 RPM red line is at 12 o'clock, which is a really nice touch, I reckon. And the screen itself, they've adapted what you can view on the screen just to tidy it up a little bit. But I've also noticed that the dials in the far corners are no longer obstructed by the steering wheel, which is something that you got on the pre-facelift GT3. So small thing, but it does make a difference. There's definitely some good stuff in there, but what about performance improvements? Well, as I alluded to in the intro, they're pretty minor. It's still a 4-litre flat 6 with 503 brake horsepower and 332 pounds-foot of torque, but there has been changes to the suspension, gearbox and lightweight design. Just like in the GT3 RS, the new GT3 gets the aerodynamically shaped trailing arms with teardrop profile on the double wishbone front axle, thus increasing downforce in the wheel arch at high speeds and improving the brake cooling. Anti-dive has also been increased to ensure a better balance on the front and rear axles when braking from high speed. As for lightweighting, there's new lightweight aluminium wheels, which you can see here, and they save 1.5 kilograms of unsprung mass per corner, whereas you can also get magnesium lightweight wheels on the Weissach pack and the lightweight pack cars, and they save a total of 9 kilograms of unsprung mass when you combine them all together, and that actually makes a pretty big difference. There's also a lightweight battery which saves 4 kilograms, so that's worth noting, and it means that the curb weight, or the lightest curb weight of the GT3, is now 1,420 kilograms. As for the gearbox, it doesn't matter whether you get the PDK or the manual, the final drive ratio is 8% shorter, which should make a more exciting experience, as if that's possible with this engine. But what does all of this mean in reality? Will the new GT3 be noticeably different to drive than before? Well, short of actually driving the thing, Porsche's GT line director Andreas Preuninger should be able to give us a pretty good idea of what it's going to be like. Okay, so we've spoken about some of the primary changes that you've done to the cars, but from your point of view, obviously maintaining the engine and the experience was a big thing, but what else have you focused on aside from that? I mean, we mentioned softer damping, softer suspension.
Oh, it was a whole package, like always. It's a facelift, it's an evolution, and so we normally address all the performance relevant components. We're starting with the engine. The engine was the biggest challenge, as we have talked before. New emission regulations. We wanted to keep a high revving 9,000 RPM fire breathing monster in the back. A race engine for street use, and that's what our customers want. So we shied away from putting add-ons like electrification or turbochargers on it, because that would have meant weight. The car has to stay agile, and it has to be a rewarding drive. It's all about emotions. The GT3 has to be quick, but it has to produce smiles. That's very important. So we went through the whole car. Suspension has a new damper setup, which is a little bit derived from the ST, which was very popular because it was very good, or it is very good on even a bumpy B road. And so the new GT3 and the Touring inherited some of that components and some of that philosophy, which makes the car usable on a broader bandwidth. It got better on the road, and it didn't suffer on the track. So this was a very important step. We offer the Weissach package for the ones that are really into track driving, track days, and makes the car lighter, offers magnesium wheels, carbon fiber suspension components, and even the racy race tax interior, carbon fiber roof, carbon fiber roll cage, all that things that our racetrack aficionados like the most.
And did you consider making the suspension firmer for the GT3 than with the Touring?
We thought of going two separate ways at first, and having learned so much from the ST's setup and what you can do with these new style dampers, we found out that even if we make the car a little bit more compliant on B roads, we don't take something away from its precision and from its track capability. So we thought, why not we do this on the GT3 wing car as well as on the Touring, and we found out we could live with one setup which is both on the track more competent than a predecessor and offers a lot more compliance on the road.
Yeah. And with the engine, you've mentioned that obviously keeping it the same was very difficult because of emissions regulations, or keeping the same power at least, but the gears, the gear ratio is final drive is 8% shorter. So what does that do to the experience?
The experience always wins when it comes to revving up dynamics. So the engine itself has new hotter camshafts, so that gives a better filling of the cylinders at high RPMs. So at 5,000 RPM onwards, the car is even more ferociously revving up, more dynamically, and this coupled to a shorter gearing makes a sensation that is quite noticeable when you drive the cars back to back in the direction of more responsiveness and more felt performance for the driver.
So talking of responsiveness, the steering, I nearly forgot, but the steering isn't quite as sensitive as it was before around the straight ahead.
I wouldn't call it not as sensitive. It's maybe not as starty around the center point. We learned that from the ST, so we spent a lot of time tuning in the ST steering, and the feel you got out of an ST steering was received so well by you guys, for the media, and by our customers. And so we transferred some of that philosophy into the new cars. And the first time Jörg Bergmeister or Walter Röhr were in the car on the track, they said, oh wow, I can even push harder on the car. It gives him more confidence through the steering wheel. I have more feedback, more feel. It's even better than the old one. And that's because, it's this continuous improvement, as we call it.
Yeah, and it's cool that it's taken lessons from the RS and the ST.
Yep.
So you've sort of got, although it's not neither is as extreme as those two cars, you've got some really nice additional bits of technology and know-how that you didn't have when you made the pre-facelift version of this.
Yeah, that's always comes with experience, because now we're on the second generation on this wonderful 992 platform, which offers so much in regards of performance, because of its wider body, wider track and everything. And so all the components that we know now for 3 years have undergone some modifications to make it even better, starting from the brakes. Brake cooling is enhanced. We even have a gearbox cooling now. We have cooling for the drive shafts in the back of the car, and the whole cooling capacity of the motor, of the engine, is about 20% more effective than it was back on the first generation. So this car even can take a beating on the track, even at 35 degrees plus in the summertime, and the driver doesn't have to worry about cooling issues.
Brilliant. With regards to the Touring and the changes that are specific to that from the regular GT3, how do you think it appeals over the regular version? What's the appeal there?
Since we came up with the first Touring, that was in a 991, we wanted to offer it as a driver's car, and we were calculating about maybe a quarter or a third of the persons interested for a GT3 would take that offer. Now in the 992 first generation, which is the most successful GT3 to date, we found out that in some markets we even had a share of 50-50. So half the people were going the driver's car way, because this is more the driver's car. Touring customers, they rarely on the track. They enjoy their car on twisty roads, on the canyons in America, on the Alps in Europe, or in Wales, maybe in England. And the car offers all the technology you need to have maximum fun on the streets as well. And that's what we wanted to enhance on this car, without being too obtrusive with spoilers and wings and aerodynamics. So you need that on the track, but not necessarily on the road. And this car is, one of the best driver's car you can have, because it's elegant, it's not obtrusive, it has the race engine and nobody notices it, so it's a little bit stealth, which we like, which we find cool. It looks best with a trim made up, consisting of chrome and silver and a dark metallic color, for our taste at least. So this is more the subtle car. It's a car you can go to the opera with and do the ballet, and nobody would object.
No.
Do that in that one, maybe not. Maybe not as suitable. And especially the touring customers, they had one burning wish, and we had really talk a lot to the customers. I have a lot of contact myself during track days, during auto shows and club meetings. They all, or a large majority of the 992 touring customers, wanted 4 seats. So why? Because some of them are long-term GT customers. They had their time on the track and they're still tracking. Sometimes they have an RS or something else just for the track work. But they like this kind of technology. They like this kind of sensation in their daily driver or in their driver's car for the weekend as well. But they want to take their kids. I had that problem when the first Touring came out as well. My son was maybe 12 years old by then, and he always wanted to join me when I was going for a little drive with my wife. And that was always the thing. And I could understand perfectly why we need these youth seats, I call them, in the back, because we two in the back of that car doing more than 50 miles, we would be like that. So that's a 911 still, but it's a perfect space to take your children. And I'm really curious how high the take rate will be with the rear seats. And by the way, this was one of the main reasons why we made a complete new seat for this new GT3 generation, because now we've had a foldable bucket seat. In my opinion, on any GT3 there has to be a bucket seat. If you have one option, take this. It does so good for the driving sensation, for the information that filters through your body, for sitting correctly in the car, for not getting thrown around when you're under high G cornering. So it's just something that has to be there. And I couldn't stand the idea of offering a four-seater only with a sports seat, because this GT3 sensation would be not especially enhanced then. It would be hindered. And so now we have a bucket seat that you can fold. Like we had it on the 997 days. Maybe we can show it off here. And just pull the lever here and you can have easy access to the rear and to the two child seat, I would say.
It's great. I mean, you don't have to choose between the bucket seat and your child, which is not going to be an easy choice to make. So
exactly.
We didn't actually intend for that chat to be so long, but it's hard not to enjoy Andreas's passion for the car that he's created, and there were some very interesting snippets in there. Speaking to him throughout the day, it's very clear that maintaining what the GT3 has always been about is getting harder and harder, but this time at least, he's confident that Porsche has managed it. And if you want to see us put that to the test, then keep an eye on the Car Magazine channel, where we'll be conducting our first drive of this car at some point in 2025.